Will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that even what is good and what you think of as good is in the service of European domination. I told you a week or so ago, it is not enough to be good. It is not enough to follow the law. You must ask, in what way does this good serve you as against me? And I have told you before that the law is nothing but one group making a rule to protect its interests against another group. That's all it is. And the capacity of one group then to enforce that rule. And therefore, in obeying the laws of other people, you are not being good. You are just supporting your own domination. That's all it is. And so you cannot brag about being law-abiding and good when the laws have been made by your enemies and the good has been defined by your oppressors. But what did I say? We have to be backwards in this world, don't we? We have to feel good. We have to feel good when we are destroying ourselves, and feel bad when we're advancing our interests. And in our good feeling and following the law, and in our believing that we are operating in a free market system, we have created a nightmare for our youth. And we talk so much about our youths until we forget that the youths did not make this world they are in. This world that our youth inhabit today was made by us and made by adults. If we gave them a different world to live in, they would behave differently. But when you make jobs for Koreans and make jobs for every other ethnic group but your own, when you let other ethnic groups ship out all of your wealth, when you let the only growth industry in your community become the selling of crack, then you will be killed by your youth, and you'll be terrorized by your youth. These youth are not crazy. These youth are not unusual. They're responding to economic imperatives. When you've let then another people take every industry and every job, the youth become very creative. And they decide then that they're going to figure out a way to get funds within the community. When you let them be fed these ideas of what it means to be a man or a woman, is as defining themselves in terms of what they wear, buying the most expensive junk and garbage produced by other people. And when you then promote this kind of value system and this kind of behavior system, and yet you will not produce for those appetites and those desires, then they will turn around upon you and eat you alive. It is not unusual. Men have always struggled over scarce resources. And resources have been made scarce in our community. And the only pot of gold has been the selling of drugs. And when you have a gold mine, men will go to war over it. Yes, it's not a mystery. And when they go to war over it, they will shoot and kill, and they will destroy bystanders. Nothing unusual about that. Look at the millions and millions of people who were destroyed. Look at the millions of bystanders who were destroyed as the Europeans struggled over gold, when they struggled over markets, and people who got caught in the crossfires. Yet, you see, if we forget the history of these people, we will be too quick to condemn our youth and forget the role that we play in the life that they lead. Speaking of law, United States law is one of the greatest sources of violence in the black community today. Yes. There are some people who think that drive-by shootings were invented by black youngsters in the 80s. Yes. They think an interest in automatic weaponry was invented by black youngsters in the 80s and 90s. But as I've told you before, you sit up in front of your TV year after year after year, and you watched The Untouchables. And you saw drive-by shootings, Valentine Day Massacre. Have you ever heard of the Tommy gun? Then how can we say that the black youth are the first ones to exhibit an interest in automatic weaponry when these people shot innocent bystanders and themselves with this weaponry? And what was the major reason? Because of the configuration of the United States law and its prohibition on a drug called alcohol, which enhanced then the value of that drug and created an industry called smuggling and made it then worth fighting for. And people fought for it using the latest in weapons technology. The U.S. law, ladies and gentlemen, the law itself. And we can follow, if we had time, many other laws that are responsible for creating the black community that we talk about here today. Yes. And on top of looking at the law, you have to look at ecology and how the very structure and physical dynamics of the African American community, with this isolation from the rest of the American system, creates a crucible so that our youth fire at each other and kill each other. Yet we know that there are many more white drug addicts than there are blacks. And we know that there are many more white drug addicts who buy the products from our youth. But because they live in an ecological situation called the suburbs, and because the law is configured in such a way that if a black man stood in the midst of these neighborhoods, he would be immediately dispatched. We have a law enforcement system then that literally herds our young men into a confined space we call the ghettos. And they fight and fire at each other and terrorize our community. And yet we damn these youngsters without looking at how the whole organization of the country is set up to destroy them and us together. And there is a parallel situation, ladies and gentlemen, in the world. A world organized according to European rules and laws and trade agreements, such that, again, the African nations spend too much time fighting each other, are locked and isolated out of the world economy. And yet, again, we want to look at the so-called minds of Africans as the source of their problem, when the major source of their problem, of course, is white supremacy. You are not going to solve any problem by being what you want to be as long as you leave Europeans in control of this world. It is not possible.